Sexual trafficking is a global epidemic. Thousands of men, women, and children are victims of this heinous crime, but most common are the women and children. Syndicates pose as recruitment agents looking for workers abroad. The victims who fall for this kind of deals are instead sold as sex workers or prostitutes. In the Philippines, under the Aquino administration, there has been a total of 63 convictions and only 76 persons convicted for sexual trafficking. It is difficult to track down and capture syndicates of sexual trafficking because most of them are done underground. Most victims are too scared to go to authorities because they are scared that the syndicates will kill them. Angelica, not her real name, shares us her story.
Napadpad ako sa Maynila dahil gusto kong takasan din yung nangyari sa akin sa probinsya. Kaya nung umalis ako sa amin, nagtrabaho ako bilang katulong. Yung amo ko, pumapasok sa kwarto ko nang naka-brief lang, tapos sinihipuan niya yung hita ko. Tapos si tata, inalok niya ako ng magandang trabaho, sales lady daw, maayos ang sweldo. Sumama ako sa kanya. Hindi ko alam, prostitution pala yung ibabagsakan ko. Saan ako kukuha ng pangkain ko? Saan ako titira? So wala akong choice, kundi sumama na lang talaga sa kanya. At gawin yung mga bagay na pinapagawa niya sa akin pag binubugaw niya ako. Tumagal ako sa prostitution, siguro mga 10 taon din ang inabot. Yun, sa prostitution, marami akong karanasan. Inaabuso ka, binubugbog ka, sinusuntok ka, minumura ka, kinukulong ka, kinukuha yung pera mo ng mga pulis pag binabagansya ka. Maraming beses din ako na umattempt na umalis sa prostitution. Kaya lang, hindi ako nakakausad. Pero nung nakilala ko din yung Coalition Against Trafficking in Women, tinulungan nila kami para makuha namin yung respeto ulit sa sarili namin na nawala noon.
What is sexual trafficking? How does this differ from prostitution? What form of justice can victims of sexual trafficking hope to get? Good evening, I'm attorney Karen Jimeno and you are watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News channel. This show is about making the law work for you by giving legal advice on topics that matter to you.
And I'm attorney Rod Nepomuceno. In celebration of Women's Month, we'll be discussing topics that concern women for the whole month of March. Starting with tonight's very sensitive topic on sex trafficking. We'll discuss what you need to know about sex trafficking and what you need to do in order to help stop this criminal act. We'll be joined by someone who's been at the forefront of exposing and putting an end to sex trafficking. Tonight, we'll be joined by Attorney Dante Bonoan, Chief of the Anti-Human Trafficking Division of the NBI. Good evening, Attorney Bonoan.
Good evening, Rod. Yeah,
good evening, Attorney Dan.
All right, this is a it's very hard to be not emotional with this topic, you know, because even just going through
even the case of Angelica,
study,
she had to engage in prostitution for 10 years. Yes, can you imagine? And she was saying kahit yung mga police minsan involved, they try to get the money from her. But I guess first let's start with trying to differentiate this with the other crime, prostitution, which is an older crime, diba? Maybe you can give us a difference, yung mga cases na nare-raid, yung mga nakikita namin sa news, mga nare-raid na mga clubs. When do you prosecute for prostitution and trafficking?
Well, trafficking, human trafficking is a crime, no? It's a special law wherein what is being prosecuted here are the people or the traffickers who exploit our people for either sexual trafficking or labor trafficking. Prostitution is not a crime that we charge against the traffic victims because they have this legal protection that they cannot be charged for any crime.
So anyone who's been trafficked, so to speak, cannot be charged with prostitution.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's a key point. Kasi if you read we find the crime of prostitution, which is in the revised penal code, pa ikaw yung babae na nag-offer ng services mo, ng sexual services, ikaw yung pwedeng makulong for prostitution,
On your own.
diba? Yes.
On your own, diba?
And in this case, kung wala tong law on anti-sexual trafficking or anti-trafficking against persons, Angelica technically could have been prosecuted while she was engaged in prostitution. Pero because of this law, she's actually considered a victim, no?
Yan.
Of trafficking.
That's right.
Ano ba yung mga elements niyan? When you say trafficking, of course by the name, no, anti-human trafficking or anti-trafficking, it implies movement or movement from one place to another. What are the elements involved here?
Well, trafficking, it involves the recruitment, transportation, maintaining, harboring a victim, trafficking victim, and then through the use of force, threats, and
coercion,
even coercion, vulnerability of the victim. And then there's this exploitation. And these are the elements that we have to prove.
Okay, so basically it's the transporting, moving, and transferring, and then after that it's for the means, no? Coercion, force, deception, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And then the third one, yung very important element, you said dapat may exploitation. Kasi if in the first two lang, wala, there's no violation of
There's no violation. You still have to prove the exploitation or the intent to exploit.
Yes.
No.
I think something we also should highlight, hindi necessarily na kailangan may sexual act, right?
Yes.
As long as you transport them or recruit them for that purpose, kahit even for the purpose of pornography, as soon as you do it, kahit hindi pa sila napasok sa industry ng prostitution or pornography, pwede na silang ma-prosecute these people, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And if I may qualify also, as you made a fine point that yung anti-human trafficking law doesn't involve necessarily prostitution, and for example, involuntary servitude, which may not be sexual in nature. It's covered yun, di ba?
It is a labor exploitation.
Labor exploitation.
Actually, what I want to point out is an interesting part of the law. Yung part na you can be prosecuted for promoting trafficking in persons. If you profit from, for instance, involuntary servitude, siguro kaya yung mga bata na kinukuha and force them to work, for instance, for cheap labor, kahit manufacturing pa yan, it can be considered as a crime of promoting trafficking in persons.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're clear that it doesn't only involve women and children, pwede rin men.
Yeah, sure.
Involuntary servitude. All right, let's answer a few questions from our viewers with the help of Attorney Dante. Our first question comes from Julie via Twitter, and she asks, what are the laws that cover sex trafficking? Are these enough to protect women and children from such acts? Ayan. Ano mga important laws na involved dito?
Yeah, the special law that involves human trafficking is actually Republic Act 9208, otherwise known as the Anti-Human Trafficking, the Trafficking in Persons Act. So, but it is now amended by Republic Act 10364, known as the Expanded Anti-Trafficking in Persons Act.
Okay.
Ano yung nadagdag with the expanded
Well, there's a lot. They included some. They added some acts of trafficking. There's provision on confidentiality, whereby you cannot divulge the identity of the victim and the perpetrators. But now it's amended to remove perpetrators or the traffickers under this confidentiality clause.
Okay. I see.
Okay.
Okay, so our next question naman, I think
Our next question comes from Tess, and she asks via Facebook, what acts constitute as sex trafficking? Does pornography and prostitution fall under trafficking? I guess this is what we were discussing earlier, di ba? Prostitution and pornography, it's covered by the revised penal code, which is a very old law. Kaya dito, ang pwede ma-prosecute would be, for instance, yung babaeng nag-offer ng sexual services. That's what you call prostitution, no? But under anti-trafficking against persons, then Tess, for instance, kahit yung babae na nag-offer ng sexual services, if she was forced into that industry or she was procured or recruited to be part of that industry, she can be a victim of trafficking against persons.
But there's a provision in the Revised Penal Code, di ba? Which covers those who profit from prostitution, not just the lady herself. Article 341. No?
Yeah, that's right.
Do you still kind of
Invoke this
law?
Well, in practice, we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this it's called white slave
trade, yes, that's
Okay.
right.
So basically, these are the pimps. These are
Yeah,
the
that's
pimps.
right.
All right. So you don't normally charge them against this law. You go against them. You file a case
Trafficking
against them sa 9208.
That's right.
Which is the other traffic. All right. Our third question comes from Lawrence, and he also asks us via Facebook. Now, in the news, I think this is what Karen was mentioning earlier, they always show that women who work in clubs and such are usually the ones arrested by the police. Now, why is this so? How come the pimps, the club owners, or the mamasans, don't they get arrested too? You know, what penalties await these people? Yeah, normally in the news nga, I guess siguro dahil mas sexy yung
And I guess baka yung ikaw naman dahil mas sexy yung pinapakita.
No, when I say
think
sexy,
it's
in a more, it's more interesting.
because they are prosecuted for prostitution. Ito yung mga voluntarily involved in the industry.
No, when they're working in a club,
Oo.
definitely there are pimps, right?
Yes.
And there are the owners who maintains them.
Yeah.
So actually, when you see this in the news, they're not really arrested.
They're not arrested.
They're rescued.
Okay.
So they're rescued. They're victims. We rescue them.
Okay.
Okay.
So
But have there been instances na talagang recently, in terms of occurrences, may mga na-arrest ba recently for being prostitutes?
Ano?
Or most of the cases are really trafficking?
More of trafficking.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, do you mean, are usually forced into the industry?
That's right.
Yeah.
How sad,
In fact,
no?
there's a movement now that to decriminalize prostitution, right? That seems to be what's going on. That seems to be the trend at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that should be right. Kung yun
Yeah.
yung trend pala ngayon, no?
Okay.
Our next question is from Dina, and she asks, I want to know how sex traffickers operate. How do they recruit their victims? I think this is something that Attorney Dan can answer it better.
Yeah. Usually, these victims came from those in the poverty level. Okay. Below the
It's
poverty
normally-
level.
Yeah. Because no one wants to be in that
no
situation.
no one.
It's normally brought about by
For
poverty
sure.
talaga. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes they are being recruited. No, there's what we call the headhunter. They recruit people, victims, and then sometimes they ask some other victims to refer another victim. So and then of course they promise jobs, the good life, but and
And
they really end up
when
in
they recruit, sinasabihan ba sila na you are being recruited to work in a club or in a prostitution house? Because I've handled a pro bono case before na she was told that she was going to work as a janitress in a Middle Eastern hospital.
Yeah.
Pagdating niya doon, she was engaged
engaged in
for
prostitution.
prostitution. So,
Parang our case study.
yeah,
Our case
so mga
study, di ba?
recruiters
Lady.
normally, they don't say na it's for that purpose.
yes, they don't. They
That's why yun nga, the element is the fraud and deception and coercion, di ba?
That's
yun yung ano. Now, I'm just curious because you talk about promising of a job and all that. Now, this law might be confused. The whole situation might be confused with illegal recruitment. Ano yung what are the elements that make it different from illegal recruitment?
well, it's the exploitation, the element of exploitation.
Right, exploitation. Sa illegal recruitment,
Kahit
basta
oo.
unauthorized
and illegal
recruiter.
recruitment, it can even be committed by one travel agency kung
Kung
bawal sila mag-recruit,
unauthorized,
diba?
no?
Or
Yeah.
any company na kahit legitimate yung job, kung wala kang license from the POEA,
Oo.
no?
So no need for exploitation. The element of exploitation is not needed. di ba?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, let's take a short break. Legal Help Desk will return after these reminders.
Ang Coalition Against Trafficking in Women Asia Pacific ay isang pandaigdigang organisasyon na tumutulong sa mga na-traffic o kinalakal ng mga babae at ang karamihan sa kanila ay dinala sa prostitution. Sa Pilipinas, ang pangunahing tutok namin ay ang pagbabago ng mga batas na nagsasamantala sa mga kababaihan at bata. Kaya kami rin ang pangunahing nagtulak ng anti-trafficking law na napasa noong 2003. At kami rin sa kasalukuyan ay nagtutulak na isang anti-prostitution bill na babaliktarin yung accountability. Sa kasalukuyan kasi ang tinuturing na kriminal ay yung mga babae o biktima ng prostitution at ang tinuturing naman na naligtas ay yung mga totoong perpetrators. Siguro ang aming mensahe ay huwag nilang isipin na itong nangyari sa kanila ay parang katapusan na ng inyong buhay, no? Na ito ay meron pa ring kabukasan, meron pa ring pintuan para maalpasan o maalisan ang sitwasyon ng sexual na pagsasamantala.
You are still watching Legal Help Desk on the Solar News Channel. We are still joined by Attorney Dante Bonoan, Chief of the Anti-Human Traffic Division of the NBI. Thank you again for being with us, Attorney Dante.
Now, ano pong, Attorney Dante, what are the latest conviction rates? No? I mean, let's say, given 100 cases that you file, I know this is probably tough, no? Pero would you have an idea of the stats?
Well, I don't have the numbers, Rod, but I understand that the rate is very low.
Okay, of the conviction.
Yes, sir.
And is that the reason why, I guess, some of the victims are a bit reluctant to, file a case?
Well, I cannot say, but we cannot blame, the law enforcers or the prosecutors or the judges with the law rate. Because maybe the legal process is very slow. It's one of the reasons why.
Yeah, because the statistics when we started the show shows na 2 digits lang yung mga convictions, di ba?
Right.
In the 40s, 60s. And magastos po ba para sa mga nagko-complain yung to undergo this proceeding?
To complain? No.
Yeah, if you complain and then file a case, nagiging magastos ba for them yung buong process?
No. Actually, the government is the one shouldering all the expenses, all the incidental expenses. Even when we operate, the government provides for this.
So let's say if I'm a victim or I know someone, it's possible naman if I knew that trafficking was going on, I can report it myself, di ba?
That's right.
If I knew something was going on, di ba? But more often than not, it's the victim who files the case. So ano yung first thing na gagawin niya? They go to your office, obviously, in NBI or the police. Ano yung first step nila?
Of course, they have to go to any office any office that can receive their complaint, like the law enforcement agencies, like the NBI and the PNP, and there are other offices that they can go to, like the
DSWD, I think also helps.
Yeah, I think
the barangay.
You mentioned there was task force.
The task force. Well, we have this interagency council against trafficking in person. It is the body that monitors and coordinates the activities in the campaign against trafficking.
So they can go to what agencies are involved here?
There's a lot.
Okay. One obviously is DSWD.
Department of Justice, DILG, Department of Labor.
So for any of these offices that they go to, someone will help them there.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
That's very comforting to know.
But we have this hotline, the IACAT hotline that they can call. It's 1343.
1343.
That's right.
1343. That's very easy to remember.
Yeah.
As in yun lang ida-dial, 1343.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very good.
Now to differentiate this lang from again, there might be a confusion on human smuggling, diba? There's a term on human smuggling. What is the difference there for human smuggling?
Well, actually, it's an immigration issue. Smuggling is an immigration issue,
right,
really.
okay.
It also lacks the element of exploitation.
I see. Okay. So talagang importante in this case in the anti-human trafficking is the exploitation part.
That's right.
All right. Okay.
And I'd like to ask then, from a realistic perspective na nangyayari sa underground, meron ba talaga mga syndicates that are very organized in terms of committing trafficking against persons and even sending them abroad?
Yeah, there are syndicates involved with this.
And how successful is, for instance, the NBI or PNP in catching these syndicates. Kasi yun yung pinakamahirap. If they're organized, then
Yeah.
kahit mahuli mo yung isa, dalawa, then babalik na naman, di ba? How successful is the
Well,
government?
not much. Although we're very serious in in this
I mean,
in our campaign.
You're really clamping down. on
Yeah,
them.
that's right. Because of the it's really of the corruption issue, and of course they are more influential and they are
And
more
sometimes
powerful.
they're powerful.
Yeah.
All right.
So-
Now, this is not because there are a lot of people who are probably asking this question. If you engaged with, let's say, sex with someone who was trafficked, are you liable?
Yes.
You're liable also. Okay.
There's a provision
So
under the law.
not only the trafficker, but the traffickee.
Yeah, that's right.
the one who benefited, the one who paid for the service. No?
In fact, in the amended law, the new law, the expanded law, they increased the penalty.
For those who are
Using
for-
traffic
okay.
victims.
So what are you familiar with the penalty, sir?
Well, it's 6 to 12 years. It's
There may
simple.
life imprisonment,
Yeah,
right?
you can be charged for life imprisonment
Yes.
if you knew that
If you knew the person,
the person is a traffic victim
Yeah. And there's large-scale
and it's qualified. Yeah,
trafficking in persons if it's committed against 3 or more.
All right.
Yeah, that's
people,
right.
right?
It's
qualified.
It's large scale. All right, we have some questions for via Twitter. Jess asks us, how can victims of sex trafficking be encouraged to report their case, especially when the people behind it are members of a syndicate? You were answering that
Ito yung
question earlier.
pinag-usapan na
Yeah.
natin, no?
Yeah, so-
Well, I think they can be encouraged by showing to them that, first of all, the government is very accessible. They have this interagency task force, and it will really not cost anything, basically,
That
because
should be-
the government shoulders all of the cost for
That should already
filing a
work.
complaint, for prosecuting those who are offenders. So I think that
Yeah.
should be encouraging, and of course you also have a lot of NGOs who try to help.
Right.
No?
Not only Dante, I'm just curious, is there some kind of, I know you have witness protection programs and all that, but is there, in this scenario, is there a protection program on the part of the government that will help victims, as they file the case or as they file the complaint? Is
Yeah,
there
that's
way-
a good question, Rod. Kasi lalo kung syndicate, baka they are very dangerous, di ba? So baka hindi ka takot sila
May
mag-testify.
programa bang gobyerno?
yeah,
on that?
yes,
Yeah.
we do. We have this aside from the witness protection program. In the NBI, we have also some kind of this protection program whereby we take custody of the witness. Of course, we shelter the witness and provide the security, and also we provide other assistance, like some training, education, and sort of things like.
Okay.
Right.
We have
Shielding.
a last question from Rob, and he asks us via Twitter, how can ordinary citizens stop sex trafficking? Aside from reporting it to authorities, what else can they do? I think, apart from what Attorney Dan has already been mentioning, people should be aware of the acts that are considered as promoting trafficking in persons. Kasi maybe we are not aware that we are already taking part in trafficking in persons. One provision is if you allow your property to be leased to people, or for instance, club owners who engage in trafficking in persons, then you can be also liable under the Trafficking Against Persons law, right?
Right.
Or if you profit financially or directly from involuntary servitude. I think people are not aware na if you transport people for the purpose of making them work involuntarily or in slavery, then you're also violating this Trafficking in Persons Act.
Right. And also, just to draw a point there, it's not necessary that the person had consent, di ba?
That's
I mean,
right.
it's either with or without consent. He was trafficked through coercion, through force, through threat of force. Even if he had consented, he's still a victim. He or she is still a victim. That's correct?
That's correct, Ron.
And then, lastly, sir, this might be a technical question, but where do you file a case? Where would you file normally? Trafficking kasi it's a moving violation, di ba? From one area to another. So
Okay, you can file the case where the crime is committed, or where any of the elements occurred,
okay.
or where the victim is resides.
Right. Okay. Okay. Now, unfortunately, this is all the time we have for today. We were telling you that time really goes quickly. We'd like to thank our guest, Attorney Dante Bonoan, for being with us tonight in discussing this very, very sensitive issue of sexual trafficking. Again, I'm Attorney Rod Nepomuceno.
And I am Attorney Karen Jimeno. This coming March 9, Dakila, with the support of the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands and the Department of Justice Interagency Council Against Trafficking, is inviting everyone to join the Freedom Ride at the Venice Piazza, McKinley Hill, Taguig City. You can visit their website or visit their Facebook page. Join us again next Monday as we continue celebrating Women's Month by discussing your legal rights on the issue of sexual harassment. Good night.